This Thursday, February 20th, NBA Betting Picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Edge Boost. Earn up to $750 per month on your sports gambling transactions. Go to edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm, the leader in data-driven picks and props. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Welcome to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Thursday, February 20th. Here to get into the NBA action. 9 games on the schedule here tonight. We did have the final stretch of the regular season kick off on Wednesday, which was a makeup game between the Hornets and the Lakers. We'll get to that momentarily. Got some news, of course, that dropped this morning. We'll touch on that, and then we'll get into the 9 games here on the NBA schedule. Just off the bat here, I am feeling a little bit, or not a little bit, but I am under the weather, dealing with a stomach bug, a virus. So bear with me. I'm just going to be running point here on the episode, but he's going to drop his 50-point performance on this episode for the Thursday games. And you will know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, MLB Gambling Podcast, the WNBA, and of course here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
They're doing pretty well. Feels good to have a full slate of basketball games. I know that there was one game yesterday, but at the same point, when you're waiting for the return of basketball, I know that was a makeup game from what happened previously with the Wildfires, but still, it's nice to see a lot of teams come back. You had kind of one standalone game. We can talk about the game in a second, but either way, nice to see a lot of teams, not just 2, back in action post All-Star break.
Yeah, I think this is the point where we'll start seeing, obviously, teams that are going to be quote unquote tanking for a top lottery pick. And,
Yeah,
I
the
guess
Hornets didn't get the memo.
Yeah, apparently not. So I think that was just maybe it was a one-off because they were in LA. And I think the 2 venues that teams or players want to show up to play in is in Madison Square Garden and in crypto.com arena. But yeah, apparently we can look at it both ways. But yeah, I mean, look, it kicked off last night. We could just get into it. Hornets come from behind victory against the LA Lakers, 100-97. Hornets, give them credit, I guess we can say. At least they put in the effort. They were trailing by 11 points in that first half, 48-37. Just looked like both teams were coming back from a break, honestly, and it took a little bit for the offenses to get going, especially for the Hornets. Took LaMelo Ball to get going a little bit as well. He turned it up in the second half, and they do get the victory, 100-97. I was honestly shocked, Scott, to see LeBron play last night. Was it worth him to sit out the All-Star game to only come back and lose to the Charlotte Hornets? I don't know, but not a great start to the second half of the season for the Lakers. And I think that if you are caught up in the craze there with the Lakers of buying championship tickets when they acquired Luka, you're not looking very good right now. I'll say that much. It's one game, but not a good look to start the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Luka was absolutely atrocious last night. So you are expecting Luka to eventually look sharper, and he is still working his way back from injury. He had not played since Christmas, of course, when he got injured. Then he came back, played a couple games of min restriction. Weird games because they were blowing Utah out and got blown out by Utah. So it was kind of a weird kind of game where that was the first time that there was actually a clutch time moment, or crunch time in general, with Luka on the court with the Lakers, and it did not exactly go well. Not only was Luka really bad from the floor, going 5 of 18, he also got hunted late in that game defensively. LaMelo had that nice crossover with that, assist. He had another possession where he ended up resulting in a floater. I thought LaMelo was fantastic, and I know I've given him a hard time in the past, but I thought for the game yesterday, he came through when his team needed him to. They tried to double him later on in regulation and give up a wide-open 3 with like a minute to go, which I thought was kind of an interesting choice. It just seemed like LaMelo took over the game down the stretch. LeBron had the 2 3-pointers there, which he missed at the end, which I found pretty funny. Not really just LeBron missing, but the fact that the Hornets just chose not to foul up 3 and instead gave up 2 wide open 3-pointers. There was a hint of tanking in there, but LeBron ended up not really bailing them out on that. But either way, it was definitely a bad loss for the Lakers, and that's an understatement because the Hornets shot 36.3% from the floor and still won the game on the road, which is pretty tough to do. But either way, though, Rui had those 2 big missed free throws at the end of regulation, which mattered too. You're asking about LeBron for the All-Star game. If you wanted me to dive into that quickly, I think when LeBron chooses to not only sit out at the last minute, but also not to just even put the jersey on for the team photo, I think he kind of summarizes how all of the stars feel about All-Star Weekend, but he was not willing to fake it, where he basically just said indirectly, this whole thing is stupid. Why do we even bother? That was my interpretation of that LeBron incident. Should he have played? He could have played a minute. You could have done the classic Giannis move from a couple of years ago. You play the game, you foul, you sub out after 10 seconds, take the ovation and get off the court, or you potentially just show up for the photos, but you actually, put on the jersey. I think LeBron could have done that. But I do think with him being the face of the league for the last 20 years, give or take, the fact that he did so little to help the All-Star Weekend tells you his true thoughts on All-Star Weekend at this point, which is the same thoughts as us, which is this sucks. Why do we bother doing this? That was my initial takeaway from the LeBron situation. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that he also, if he knew that he wasn't going to play, that was another spot that at least he could have given to
either Norm Powell or Sabonis.
Norm Powell, Devin Booker, Sabonis, somebody like that. Which I thought, I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and I can't agree or I can't disagree with those folks there. I thought it was just a real selfish move that if you already knew that you were not going to play, give the spot up to somebody that, we as fans or even, voters thought that they deserved to get in, but there weren't enough spots for those type of players like we just talked about.
I also don't really get it because if LeBron ended up dropping out of the entire thing earlier because of injury, you still keep your All-Star nomination.
Right.
Like, you could still be there.
Yeah.
It's kind of the whole thing was kind of weird. Yeah, I'm not going to dive fully into the All-Star weekend because I think LeBron was one of the bigger losers of the weekend, but does it matter in the grand scheme of things? No. I mean, Anthony Edwards was supposed to play too. He didn't say anything. I think that was weird too. Wemby tried to cheat in the skills competition, which made me laugh. But I thought the All-Star weekend, I'm not going to go too far into because we're talking about games, but I thought it was a massive, I'd say, L by the NBA, especially with what happened with the Four Nations tournament, which was really the thing that overshadowed the entire All-Star weekend. But yeah, I think LeBron could have handled it a lot better. I think Wemby could have as well. Anthony Edwards could have as well. But at the same point, we've been roasting All-Star weekend for years because it sucks. So I feel like this was the... You want to say it was rock bottom?
I honestly, Scott, I didn't watch a minute.
I don't blame you. I'm just asking, do you think the whole saga with LeBron, Anthony Davis and stuff is like the rock bottom of All-Star weekend?
I think so. I think Adam Silver is too much into the tournaments. We have the in-season tournament and the All-Star weekend change.
I just think he wants to be the players' friends. He doesn't challenge any of the players, and they kind of walk all over him. That's how I look at it. But
I think that, and we'll wrap it up with this. I think at least a start would be Team USA versus World for, I don't know if there's some type of bragging rights, but I think that would be more of a fun, competitive game to watch as a starting point. But I mean, we'll see. Honestly, I haven't watched All-Star Weekend maybe for the past couple seasons, just because everything that we did mention here. All right, before we get into the games, looking for free daily picks for college basketball, NBA, college baseball, NHL, and more. Download the SGPN app. It's free in your app store. One more note that we did get this morning, Scott, Bobby Portis.
I was just going to save it for the Bucks Clippers game.
Okay, yeah, we can save it for that then. Yeah, we'll save it for that. So let's get into the games here then. We got 9 games on the schedule. Start here with the first game on the board. We got the Boston Celtics. They are in Philly to take on the Sixers. Sixers are catching 7.5 points here at home with a total of 223.5. Looking at the injury report, start here with the Boston Celtics. Pretty clean injury report. Only player that is out is Xavier Tillman. For the Sixers, Paul George is available. And then Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry are both out for this game for the Sixers. Celtics laying 7.5 here on the road against the Sixers here. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you had me at Paul George is available. Give me the Celtics minus 7.5 in this one. I think Boston, once again, we're going to see how they look post All-Star break, but they were starting to, I'd say, to kind of piece together multiple good performances down the stretch of the first half of the season. So if Boston actually does care, which I think they should, because the Sixers beat them on Christmas. I don't think the Celtics forgot about that. I think they'll have a good effort. Now, you're looking at the Sixers and Embiid, who's been injured a lot, and when he does, you never really know what you're going to get from him. Maxi's been great so far this season. Paul George has been basically a full-time podcaster so far this season. Boston, though, after losing the game on Christmas, I actually think they're going to get up for this game. They're 22-6 on the road, but Boston did end up showing up to beat the Sixers in the game after Christmas, but they were down by about 20 in that game and still came back and won by 8. I think Boston gets up for this game. I think Boston has really underachieved against the Sixers team this season, and they have a chance to potentially start the second half off right. Paul George, I think, will do nothing in this game because I don't think he actually either A, wants to be there, or B, just has, I don't want to say much left in the tank, but it's starting to look that way. I'll tell you that much. It does not look good for Paul George. Yeah. I'll go with Boston in this one. They have been winning more and more games by blowout fashion. Just how the first half ended. It's always tricky when you have a layoff, but I do think after the first 2 games where Boston could have played better, and after that crazy comeback they had in the second meeting against Philly, I think they'll have a better effort for a more sustained period of time in this game. Give me Boston by like 10.
Yeah, I'll mention this, that road favorites in that first game back after the All-Star break have been a very, very profitable angle. I was trying to actually find the exact numbers there. I think I sent it to Sean because I know he does the Bet US show. Let me see if I have it here. All right, yeah. So since the 2014 season, the first game after the All-Star break, if you are a road favorite, 32-12 straight up, 26-18 against the spread. That's around 59%. And you're also profitable towards the over at 27-15 into that 64%. And then if you want to trim that down to since the 2015 season as a road favorite, first game after the All-Star break, 30-17 straight up. That's 81%, 24-13 ATS, 64.5%. And then the over is still a profitable angle at 23-12 and 2 at 65%. So again, it just kind of goes back to it's a 2-man show for the Sixers. It's Maxey, it's Embiid. You're not going to get anything out of Paul George. And I always said that, Boston, when healthy, they have more of the more complete lineups. They have the depth. So I do think what you mentioned also about the revenge angle from Christmas Day, I think that Boston does get up for this game. So I agree with you 100%. Let's lay the points here with the Boston Celtics, 7.5. You have anything for the total?
For the total, I think we'll go with the over. Yeah, I've seen a couple of higher scoring games. Christmas game was 232. The second game was 228. Think that 223.5 is a bit low. You can argue Boston defensively once again might buckle down, and then maybe that's why the total is going to be a little bit lower. But I do think that based on how these games have trended so far this season in the head-to-head, it has been more high scoring than you might think. So I'll go with the over in this one.
All right, let's keep it moving here. Next game on the board, we'll get over to the Memphis Grizzlies. They are in Indiana to take on the Pacers.
251.
Grizzlies laying 2.5 points here on the road with a monumental total of 251 points. Injury report for the Memphis Grizzlies is pretty clean. Nobody really of significance on there, just guys that are on G League deals. For the Indiana Pacers, same story. Only guy that is going to be out is, of course, Isaiah Jackson. And that's pretty much it. So both teams coming healthy into this game. Grizzlies laying 2.5 here, Scott, total 251.
Yeah, I think for this one, first of all, I actually have to agree with the over, I think, in this spot. I don't actually have the numbers in front of me because you don't get many 250 totals in the NBA. But when you do, I'm not sure I've ever seen an under, to be honest. I think all of these games go over when the totals are in the 250s, but it makes sense. The pace should be there. Memphis has the fastest pace in the entire league. They're looking at Indiana, who plays fast as well. I think you're going to see a bunch of points in this game, so I think I am going to be looking at the over in this one. And you're also looking at job playing, which is pretty important. For the actual side, I think I am going to go with Memphis. I just think Memphis is the better team. Not even just record-wise, but just based on job being in the lineup. I think Memphis is a top when fully healthy with Ja there, top 5, top 6 team in the league? I'd probably put Indiana somewhere in that like top 10 range, top 12 range, maybe. Like, I think there is a little bit of a tier gap between these two teams, especially with depth. I do think that even though Indiana is a pretty deep team, I think Memphis is the deeper team compared to the two. I think Ja's better than Halliburton, which I don't think is a hot take anymore because Halliburton's been mess all season long, basically, or especially lately. I'll go with Memphis. I think they're the better team. They've been great on the road this season as well. Looking at Memphis's numbers on the road, once again, they are very good in opposing arenas, as Memphis is. They're 15-12. I thought they were better than that, but still, they won the first game, 136-121 against this team. But Memphis still over 500 on the road, is still a better overall team. Ja's actually playing in this game. Good enough for me. I'll go with Memphis -2.5, but for the sake of the total, I think it actually makes sense. I'll go with the over as well. But I think Memphis should cover this game.
Just kind of did a quick excuse me, query on totals of 250 or more. They were on a eight overs. Hold on, where'd it go? Yeah, so 8 overs, 4 unders, and 1 push. But they've now had 3 straight unders, I should say, when it's 250 or more. But yeah, it's been a profitable angle. It's 8-7-1 as far as the database goes, around 53.3%. But like I mentioned, 3 straight unders in those spots there. But Grizzlies, we've talked about this, that they've been one of the fastest pace, if not the team that plays at the fastest pace. And I think they do that for 4 quarters. And this is a team that plays all 48 minutes. So the Halliburton part, I think a lot of that probably has to do with them inserting Matherin and Nembhard as that starting lineup, which kind of takes away what Hallie does as far as like facilitating the offense and not us seeing him dropping 10 dimes like every single game. So I think that's probably a part of it for Hallie. And maybe also adjusting and playing with those guards in the backcourt with him as well. But yeah, I like the Grizzlies in the spot here. I think they're the more rounded team, the more complete team. I think Edey could have a big night on the boards here, barring that he does get the minutes here, Scott. But I'd be with you. Grizzlies -2.5 here. Memphis team total over would be the look here. But again, I would not be surprised at the end of the day, Scott, if we saw this game in the 260s, 270s.
I said before, the first game ended up landing in the 250s. So I feel like that's why the total's so high. You could argue first game back, maybe you're going to see just a bunch of rust, or maybe you see no defense at all. Who knows? But yeah, I do think you're going to see a fun game. So if you're picking a game to watch and you really like watching points, maybe a same game parlay as well is probably the game for you.
Yep. Anything else for this game?
No, not really. I feel like Memphis, I'm wondering what type of lineup they're going to use, because Edey starts, but they can rotate him in and out depending on minutes, just based on the overall matchup. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. should have a solid game here, but you have Bane, you have Ja. Ja can really walk into a bunch of different stat lines. He could have like 35-7. He could have like 22-10. He could really have his way with this defense, and I think that with that being the case, maybe Ja PA is the way to go. Halliburton's kind of weird, though, because Halliburton, you could argue, should automatically have a good game because of the total. I'm not sure about that because he's had a couple of really, really bad games where he's turned invisible. So I have a hard time of backing Halliburton this season. I prefer Siakam if I had to pick somebody on that team. Maybe Turner threes because Edey's going to have a hard time covering the perimeter when he's on the court in this game. But I do think it's a great matchup for Ja in particular. I'll go with Ja, potentially double-double, maybe Ja PA, something along those lines.
Yeah, I was trying to see what he did in that. Back on December 1st, he had 19 points, 8 assists in that game. I don't think Edey played in that game for the Grizzlies. Let me double check here. No, he did not. So Jaren Jackson did have 25 points in that game. So yeah, it could be a big game for Jaren Jackson Jr. here. All right, before we keep it moving here on the Thursday card, let me just tell about everyone about our friends over at Edge Boost. SGPN has partnered up with Edge Boost, the premier Visa debit card for bettors. An Edge Boost card allows you to avoid the hassle of having your card denied at the sportsbook, DFS site, sweepstakes site, racetrack, or casino. Plus, you can earn up to $750 per month in cashback rewards for using your Edge Boost card. And you know your money is safe as the card is FDIC insured. The best part is no credit checks and it's completely free. Sign up today and use promo code SGPN so you get better cashback rewards and instant tier 2 status. That's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. Again, that's edgeboost.bet, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by mybookie.ag. MyBookie is your favorite place to bet every sport, plus props for every game in the live dealer casino. MyBookie accepts customers from a ton of locations. Easy deposit and lightning fast payouts using crypto. Head to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit match of up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. All right, next game on the schedule here, we'll get over to the Chicago Bulls. They are visiting the Knicks in Madison Square Garden. Knicks laying 12 points here at home with a total of 245. Injury report, I'll start here with the Chicago Bulls. The only player that will be out for this game is going to be Patrick Williams. He is dealing with a right quadriceps tendon soreness. For the New York Knicks, OG Anunoby is questionable tonight. Josh Hart is going to be out for this game. Of course, Mitchell Robinson continues to be out. Did see a note that he did started participating in 5-on-5 scrimmage, so maybe returning sooner rather than later for this Knicks team. But at least Josh Hart, keep your eye out for OG Anunoby here tonight for the Knicks. Knicks laying 12 points here at home. Scott, against the Bulls, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so the Bulls have actually been competitive against the Knicks, but it also is a different team because you're looking at all the trades they made, Levine not being there. But they've had 2 good games against the Knicks. In fact, they're 2-0 against the Knicks. So the argument is the Knicks should be pissed off because the Bulls have randomly been good against them this season, and the Bulls have been really blowing up the team, I'd say, at this point, even though Vucevic is still there for whatever reason. But the Bulls, the last 4 games, they've lost by at least 18 points. In all 4 of them. So the Bulls, I do think, are tanking. It's why they traded Levine for a draft pick as well. It's why we have been kind of roasting this team repeatedly because they will give up a ton of points. They won't actually stop anybody, and the Knicks might get OG back, which is a big deal. I think the Knicks bury this team tonight. I do think being 0-2 against the Bulls might be enough motivation you need out of the gates to make a statement and to just start the game on a high note and keep that rolling all the way through. Maybe you'll agree with me, maybe not, but being 0-2 against the Bulls is a pretty horrible look. Mm-hmm. I see a better effort from the Knicks in this game, and we know how good the Knicks can be when OG actually plays. He was a full participant in practice, so I'm assuming he will be playing in this game. Min restriction or not, a min restriction for Tibbs means 35 minutes, so we'll see how many minutes OG plays in this one. But the Bulls are a laughingstock. I mean, they intentionally traded their arguably best player this season, arguably either him or Vucevic, to get a pick and a couple of scrubs. So I think the Bulls are going to be really bad the second half of the season. I'll go with the Knicks -12.
I think my favorite play of the night here is probably Karl-Anthony Towns' points here tonight, points and rebounds, or just points. He's dominated in the first 2 meetings, at least from a point standpoint, against the Bulls. 46 and 44 in those 2 matchups. I don't think that changes here tonight for Karl-Anthony Towns. Also, like I mentioned, 10 rebounds and 16 rebounds in the second matchup here. So again, without Josh Hart, more rebounds to go around, possibly OG Anunoby being out here as well. So I really do like Cat tonight. As far as the side, I would look at the home team in the Knicks. I think this is the time of the season where these teams like the Knicks, you want to start tightening up the screws a little bit. I know they're dealing with some injuries there, but now I think it's where you want to start playing your best basketball, and that's tightening up the screws on the defensive side. We know what they can do offensively, but I mentioned this several times throughout the season. I thought this team would be a little bit better than they have been, at least defensively, throughout the season. So I think that's where it's really got to start for this New York Knicks team. So you don't want to get beat by this Bulls team coming off of the All-Star break here. So Knicks at home, I think that's been a pretty good angle here. Let me see if I can find the ATS numbers here real quickly. So at home this season as a favorite, Knicks.
I'm assuming they're horrible.
That's team totals. So yeah, 15 and 12 ATS in the first half of games as a home favorite, and they're just 13, 12, and 2. So barely profitable are the Knicks that as a home favorite. They are on the first leg of a back-to-back, which they are 5-2 and 1 ATS. So they are taking, I think, this first game of a leg of a back-to-back, I guess you could say seriously. But Yeah, I'll go with the Knicks here. Knicks team total over would be the look here for me, but I really do like Karl-Anthony Towns in this game as my favorite play. You got anything else for this game?
What is that, like 129.5?
For their team total. So yeah, it would probably be, I think they walk into 130. I mean, I don't think this Bulls team defensively. Let me see.
Oh, they're not even going to bother trying to stop anybody.
Yeah, so yeah, 129.5 over on DraftKings. I mean, look, it's a big number, but I've said this, it's a big number for a reason. Don't be surprised if you do see 135 plus points put up here tonight by the New York Knicks here. Anything else for this game, Scott?
No, not really. Once again, I think the Knicks kill them, so that's kind of where I'm going. I see JT mentioning the Bulls front office gets a pass for wanting a top 5 pick. See, I understand that preseason. I still don't know why Vucevic is still there if you're going for the overall draft picks, unless you think you get a better package during the offseason. We'll see, but I don't know. The Bulls, I feel like we're committed to the tank, and then kind of just did stuff mid-season, which suggested they were trying to be somewhat competitive at times and tank at other times, and they finally pulled the plug at the All-Star break. I don't know. I feel like the Bulls could have decided to tank a long time ago.
Yeah. You know? I think we said this last season, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we say it every year.
Yeah. But all right, we'll keep it at that. All right, next game on the board here, we'll go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're in Brooklyn to take on the Knicks. The Nets. Cavs laying 13 here on the road with a total of 225.5. Injury report for the Cavs: 2 questionable tags, Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro. Dean Wade is going to be out. For the Brooklyn Nets, I believe they waived Bojan Bogdanovic, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that yesterday. Cam Thomas is out, and Nick Claxton is available to play here. So, I guess relatively healthy for the Nets here, or at least the guys that they have available. But nonetheless, Cavs laying 13 on the road here. Scott, what are you thinking?
Yeah, the Nets, I feel like maybe will push for a play-in spot. Who knows? But either way, the Cavs, of course, are the much better team. Faced off twice this season, and the Nets scored less than 102 in both those games. I see the Nets offense struggling again in this one. I think the Cavs will look sharp here, especially after what I think was a solid trade, getting DeAndre Hunter, the guy rid of LeVert. So I think that's going to make them better long-term. 12.5's a lot on the road, but I think it makes sense in this case. I think I am going to go with Cleveland in this one. I like the under in the game, though. I don't know why the total's gone up from 222.5 to 225.5, because I don't trust the Nets to actually score more than 105 in this game. So I'll go with the Cavs, but I'm not going to bet that. I'd rather bet the under, because I think the Nets are built to be competitive in only low-scoring games, because they can't get into a track meet with anybody. So give me the under in this one. Yes, the Cavs did score 130 in the last meeting. That was back in December. They only gave up 101 in that game. So give me the under. I think the Nets offense will drag this game down, and I think that this total's too high. So I'll go with the under as my favorite play for this one.
Yeah, I think they're probably just banking on the Cavs scoring 125 plus here tonight. Maybe to
There's no guarantee the Nets get to 100, though. So
yeah. Hey, Adam makes mentioning the point. They signed your favorite player to the roster, Killian Hayes.
Yeah, I know. Who actually was having a very good G League season. People forget that the Nets actually signed him preseason, shipped him to the G League, and they're now going to call him up. So, I mean, to be fair, when you get rid of Ben Simmons on your roster, you need another meme. You know, you got to keep the jokes flowing, so they found a replacement. It's like when you end up going to like a comedy show or something, or like a concert, and the main act has to like cancel, so you have to start scrambling trying to find something else. That was getting Killian Hayes after Ben Simmons' departure. Is that a fair comp?
I feel like I would think so. Yeah, I think so. I just think that the Cavs roll here. Again, I talk a lot about complete starting fives, and I think you were a huge fan of that DeAndre Hunter acquisition. I think a lot of basketball fans were, and when you talk about those trades that you add a piece that makes you or pushes you over the top, like I think that DeAndre Hunter acquisition was for the Cavs. They also added Javonte Green just yesterday from the Pelicans, so adding a little bit more depth to that 3-and-D spot for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think they roll here. Should expect a big game from Jared Allen. I don't know if there's any more merit to the revenge angle there with the Nets. Evan Mobley, I think those guys should dominate on the glass. I think they could probably get this done in 3 quarters, honestly, for the Cavs. wouldn't be surprised if they're up by 20 plus points at the end of 3 quarters here. So I'll lay it here with the Cavs.
Well, do you agree about the Hunter trade, by the way? Are you a fan of that move in general?
For the Cavs?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. It was a great move for them. I think that pushes what? Max Strus to the bench, or because you have Garland, Mitchell, Hunter, Mobley, and Allen, right? As your starting 5, and then Strus would be the first one off the bench.
Unless you wanted to use Hunter off the bench in theory, because you still have Strus, and Hunter was coming off the bench for a bit on Atlanta. Right. So you could argue the Strus versus Hunter spot, but Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Allen are guaranteed.
Yeah, I think that could also be something that Kenny Atkinson could, like, based on matchups. I think that he could either start one of the 2 guys there. So
I actually think Hunter's going to come off the bench because he gives you a little bit more scoring punch off the bench.
That makes sense.
I think is a more, I'd say, balanced option as a 3-and-D guy offensively. You can't really go wrong either way. I don't mind Strus. I think that Hunter's obviously better, but he's been solid in the 6-man role. It wouldn't shock me if he kept that role with Cleveland.
Yep. All right, before we get over to the next game on the schedule, let me tell everyone about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Any NBA, NHL, college basketball, whatever your sport, you can cash in big with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Like I mentioned, I really like Cat points tonight. I'm going to play the higher on his projection here tonight in my entry. Sign up with promo code NBA SGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure that promo code NBA SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's partner Rhythm is the #1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds. Build your own model, copy one of the top-performing models from the leaderboard, or have Rhythm build a model for you. College basketball, NBA, and golf. Rhythm has it all. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the board, we'll get over to the Orlando Magic. They are in Atlanta to take on the Hawks. Hawks are catching 1.5 points here at home against the Magic with a total of 222.5. Injury report for Orlando. Mac McClung is celebrating his three-peat, so he is out for this game. Jalen Suggs is out for this game as well. And, of course, Mo Wagner is out for this game with a torn ACL and done for the year. For the Atlanta Hawks, Kobe Bufkin, Jalen Johnson, Larry Nance Jr. are all out, and Trae Young is probable here tonight for the Atlanta Hawks. Magic looking for some type of revenge after Atlanta beat them before the All-Star break. Looking to return the favor here, Scott. Magic 1.5 on the road.
Yeah, by the way, you said McClung, might end up not playing. The problem I have with McClung is there's not going to be a car on the court, so I don't know what he's supposed to do to help the Magic actually win that game. But nice job by him, by the way, who made the All-Star weekend at least, I'd say, entertaining for a little while. Good for McClung, but of course the NBA uses him to try to promote the All-Star weekend. He's not an NBA player, so you're probably not going to see him much anyway. For this game, first of all, this division race is one of the saddest division races I've ever seen. With these two teams and the Heat, it is just depressing. I'll go with Atlanta in this one. Atlanta's kind of had Orlando's number, and I feel like it's a spot where Trae's been even underwhelming against the Magic, and they've still been able to win these games. I feel like even though Orlando, you'd argue, is the deeper team, which is not saying much at all, but I do think Atlanta has just been a bad matchup for Orlando, and we saw that before the All-Star break. I don't want to lay 1.5 with Orlando. We've mentioned many times this season how much better they are at home than on the road. I really don't want to back Orlando on the road. Now, Atlanta, we know in general, can lose to anybody because they don't really guard anyone, and they're 12-12 at home. But Orlando's 10-19 on the road. I'm not that interested. The Hawks actually played well down the stretch of the first half, beat the Bucks, ended up beating the Wizards, beat the Magic, and then lost that heartbreaker to the Knicks by 1 point in overtime. Not a bad showing there, but I think I'll go with the Hawks. No chance I bet these teams in the near future. I can't stand this entire division. I think you have 3 bad teams competing for first place, but I think for the sake of this, I'll fade the bad road team that's laying points. I think it's Hawks or pass. I don't mind Hawks 1-10.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this is that I just can't get behind the Magic team right now because it's just two guys jacking up 20, 25 shots per game and hoping both of them have a good game for this Orlando Magic team to win. I think you and I talked about this on the pod before the All-Star break that they're gonna have to address something in the backcourt to get some consistent scoring. I don't think they just have a bunch of guys right now. I know Jalen Suggs can be a part of this team's future, but it's just that they need that consistent scoring guard next to Pancaro and Franz Wagner there. But Atlanta just finds ways, man, and I think it's coaching for the Atlanta Hawks because Quinn Snyder, I know this is what his third year now with the Hawks, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
But you know,
I think it would be like 2.5 or
yeah,
something. 'Cause he showed up
yeah,
mid-season, but
right,
yeah.
yeah. So Trae Young's been playing pretty well. Now, again, I know they've been without their second best player in Jalen Johnson for quite some time now, but Onyeka Okongwu has stepped up big time for this team, and some of their role players have stepped up as well. But again, I just can't get behind this Orlando Magic team right now, especially on the road as a favorite here. I know they've been very, very profitable for us when they're at home and healthy, but I'll take the points here with Atlanta plus 1.5 against the Orlando Magic.
Can I give you a fun prop, by the way, for this game?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I interest you in Trae Young over 5.5 turnovers at even money for this game? Just looking, I don't think I've really seen many 5.5s. Maybe when Westbrook, because I'm trying to think if turnovers were even really a market back then. Like
I remember like Harden one was probably.
I was going to say Harden was definitely up there with the Rockets. You probably had Westbrook on the Wizards at one point, who probably had a turnover number that high, but Trae's at 5.5. I can't really argue it because he's had 8+ turnovers in the last 2 games. He's had 6+ in 4 of the last 5. The last 2 games against Orlando, he had 9 turnovers in the only meeting this season, and he had 8 in the last meeting last year. So 5.5 even money, I actually don't mind, but that kind of tells you what we're expecting for this game. It's going to be pretty ugly. It should be close. Trae has really not done well stats-wise against Orlando, but they keep winning. But Trae 5.5 turnovers at even money, I actually kind of like the over. So that's my thoughts. Orlando turns him over a ton. So
it's also like a usage thing for Trae Young because he has the ball in his hands like all the time. So the turnovers are going to come, but it's pretty wild to see 17 combined turnovers in his last 2 meetings against the Orlando Magic. All right, next game on the board here, Scott. Maybe the game of the night. We've got the LA Clippers. They are in Milwaukee to take on the Bucks. Clips are laying 2.5 here on the road. Total of 228.5. Injury report, for the Clippers. Pretty clean. Just guys that are on G League deals. For the Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis is officially questionable, and so is Dame. But I did see both those guys did participate in practice on what's today? Thursday, on Wednesday. And obviously the big news that we got this morning, Bobby Portis suspended 25 games for the Milwaukee Bucks. We start with the Portis thing and then get into the game, Scott. But initial reaction when we heard about the Portis news?
Yeah, it's a big deal because Portis, we know, is one of the better bench players in the entire league. You can argue that he is one of the more important players on this team because when you go and look at the overall roster, you have Giannis, of course, who's been injured for a decent portion of the season, at least the last couple of weeks, which is why Portis is so important, because when Giannis does miss games, Portis can fill in and not even give you like a serviceable performance. He gives you a good performance more often than not. So he's a very good spot starter with this team. That's a big deal. You're also looking at Lillard on the roster as well. Kuzma, who just got engaged, congratulations. But is Portis better than Kuzma? Is Portis the 3rd best player on the team? You can argue that he might be.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a big deal, especially with the injuries that Giannis has been dealing with for the last couple of weeks, pretty much ever since the in-season tournament. He's been injured, and Portis has been able to fill in, I'd say, admirably. So it's a big deal, not to mention against the Clippers. When you're battling against Zubac and company, you can use all the size that you really have. And unfortunately for the Bucks, they don't have that for about a month or 2 at this point. So they'll get him back for the playoffs, which is important. But it's a big deal, especially for this matchup. I mean, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, you mentioned, right? Bobby Portis, when he fills in when Giannis is not playing, like we know, our immediate reaction is go to play the double-double for him. And being one of the better bench players. I think this is going to take a big toll. Now you have to rely on guys like Jericho Sims that they picked up. I think this puts a lot of pressure now on Kyle Kuzma to step up in a big way for this Bucks team. So yeah, it's just unfortunate for Bob, excuse me, Bobby Portis and the Bucks here. I don't think this forces Giannis to come back sooner because obviously he's Giannis being one of the best players in the entire association. But I think it just puts a lot of pressure on the other players, at least the supporting cast here for the Bucks to step up.
I think it puts more pressure on Brook Lopez, to be honest, because he's probably going to be the one playing 30-something minutes. Because Giannis, yes, on the other hand, you want him to play a lot because he's going to help carry your team.
Right.
On the other hand, you know that with the injury history, the last thing you want to do is overextend him before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Milwaukee should be able to avoid the play-in at this point.
Yeah.
So I think Giannis is not going to be too impacted by this because I think Milwaukee will wrap him in bubble wrap if needed until the playoffs. I think it's more of a Lopez thing where he's going to have to play more, trying to at least take minutes that maybe would have gone to Portis if he was still available on the roster. So I don't think it actually has any impact on Giannis because they are going to keep him healthy or try to as the number one priority for the rest of the season. And then once the playoffs come around, you unleash him and you play him like 35 minutes a game. I think it's more of a Lopez thing. The problem is it's right after the trade deadline. So you can't even acquire anybody.
Right.
That's the bigger issue here.
Yeah.
Timing. But I think it's more of a Lopez thing for me.
So the game here, Clippers laying 2.5. Again, a lot of it depends, of course, if both Dame and or Giannis do play here tonight, Scott, for the Bucks. But Clippers have been a team that have looked really good, and they've got it done quietly. Harden having a great season. Kawhi's looked pretty good on his way back. Norman Powell's looked great. Zubac has been great. What are your thoughts about this game tonight?
Yeah, I think for this game, I am going to go with the Clippers in this one. Milwaukee has been fine. I think that's a way to describe it. I've not been overly impressed. The Clippers I have been. Maybe it's an expectations thing, but I actually like this Clippers team. Not to mention the fact the Clippers have the better record, so they are objectively speaking the better team in what I think has been a very solid year for the Clippers. Now, Kawhi is questionable. We'll see if he plays, but so is Giannis and so is Dame. So I don't know who's playing in this game for these teams. So give me the Clippers in this one. I think Portis being out's a big deal. I think that Zubac will have a solid matchup here as well. But if Giannis and Lillard were guaranteed to play, I'd maybe consider Milwaukee. But I don't even know the answer. So I'll go with the Clippers because Giannis hasn't played in a while, so he might end up being on a min restriction as well. So I am going to go with the Clippers minus 2.5.
Yeah, I think it would have to be the Clippers, without knowing the status of both Giannis and Dame in this game. And again, like we said, Clippers have been playing really great basketball with their guys intact. So I just think Zubac has a big game on the boards here tonight for the Clippers. I'd lay it here with the Clippers minus 2.5 against the Bucks. You have anything for the total?
It's kind of tricky for the total because I don't know who's playing for these teams. I might have to pass on the total for now, to be honest. I mean, the first meeting did end up getting into the 240s, but that was about a month ago. I'm going to have to pass. I got to wait to see who's playing in this game.
All right, next game on the board, we'll go with the Charlotte Hornets. They are in the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets. Denver laying 16 here at home with a total, 16.5 now with a total of 230. Injury report. Charlotte, of course, did play last night in LA. So they do get that extra time to submit their injury report. For the Denver Nuggets, Aaron Gordon is probable. Jamal Murray is probable. Michael Porter Jr. is probable. And Peyton Watson is going to be out for this game. And that is pretty much it. So at least your starting five is intact. Peyton Watson is going to be out. Russell Westbrook is going to be back for the Denver Nuggets after missing the past several weeks with the hamstring injury. He's not on the injury report. But Denver laying 16.5 here, Scott.
Yeah, so the Hornets won, you could argue, their Super Bowl yesterday.
Yeah,
I know LaMelo came back. Mark Williams came back. Are we assuming off the rip they're going to be playing back-to-backs? I have no idea. There's a chance LaMelo sits this game. That's definitely a possibility. And the line suggests that he actually might be sitting this game. So we'll see what happens, but I think Denver kills him. I just feel like looking at the overall defensive assignments for Charlotte, it's rough for this game. You got Mark Williams, who I think we'd agree is not a great defensive player, who came back against the Lakers, who I thought was okay. I think he had 10 and 9 in that game. Have fun with Joker. If you end up playing at all, you basically have no backup center. Bridges was great last night as well, but you're looking at Murray, who's found his groove again. He had 50 about a week or two ago. Westbrook's back, which I find pretty entertaining. Porter, though, should be playing. Gordon should be playing. This team is fully healthy with the exception of Kanchar and Watson. So I think Denver might just absolutely kill this team. But if Charlotte ended up sitting a couple guys and after having that good win against the Lakers and just immediately no-showing the game after, that sounds pretty, I'd say, on brand for me.
Yeah.
For Charlotte, I think that Denver might kill them by 25. I'll go Denver in this game.
Yeah, I think that this might be a game where I wait that maybe the Hornets keep it competitive in the first quarter, first half, maybe shaking off some of the rust after missing, having the, the layoff with the All-Star break. And Charlotte, getting to play last night. But again, I think Mark Williams sits here tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if we see LaMelo sit here tonight. But I do think that Charlotte could possibly keep it competitive. And then, all right, in the second half, that's where maybe some of the tired legs catch up for the Charlotte Hornets. And then Denver gets their stuff together at half, and they just come out and, have a third quarter like the Denver Nuggets have done when they are trailing. Or maybe, it's still a competitive game here. But they should have their way offensively in this game. So, yeah, Denver, I would lay it here. I wouldn't be surprised if they win by 20, but I might just look for a live opportunity in this game if just in case Charlotte does come out and play competitive basketball, at least in the first or second quarter there. Anything for the total?
I think I'll go over, but I don't feel great about it because Denver might actually drop like 135 in this game, but I'd rather go for a team total over for Denver. I think Denver can kind of name the score. Yeah. Joker could have a triple-double in 3 quarters and nobody would be surprised. So I do think having Westbrook back will potentially just help the second unit operate, which I think is going to be important too, but I think Denver can name the score. So I think it's over, but it's really tough because I'll wait to see who's playing or not. You might get a lower number if LaMelo gets ruled out, but I think Denver, once again, can potentially drop 130 by themselves.
All right, next game on the board we'll get to here will be the Phoenix Suns. They are asterisk. This game is being played on the University of Texas campus here tonight
Durant
at Moody Center. Yeah, homecoming for one Kevin Durant, where he did play his college basketball. The Phoenix Suns are a 2-point favorite here on the neutral site, I should say, with a total of 238. Injury report for the Phoenix Suns, pretty clean. Only Cody Martin. When did they pick up Cody Martin? Did the Phoenix Suns. So he's out for this game.
I thought they got him back in the Nurkic trade.
Yeah, I don't know. That probably just went over my head, honestly. Yeah, you're right. For the San Antonio Spurs, Wemby is doubtful here tonight. He is dealing with an illness, so it looks like he will not be playing in this game at the Moody Center in Austin, Texas. So again, keep this in mind that this is on the University of Texas campus here tonight, and it's not in San Antonio. Phoenix laying 2 here, Scott. What are you thinking?
Yeah, Wemby once again tried to cheat in the skills competition, so Adam Silver apparently poisoned him. That was the punishment that he got for that one. But I think I got to go with the Suns. Do I think the Suns are good? No. But I've mentioned before the Spurs without Wemby. Of course, they're better now with Fox being there. But without Wemby, I want nothing to do with this team. Wemby covers up so many holes defensively for this team that I just expect a high-scoring game in general. I don't exactly trust the backup center options for the Spurs. You could argue that maybe, once again, Bassi would have a good matchup, but he is injured, so he's not going to play. It's time for my boy to have a solid game here, Mamukashvili. It's time to see how he plays for this one. We'll see if the double-double for him might be alive, but I do think at the end of the day, Nick Richards should have a solid game on the glass. I think Durant's going to have a solid game with his overall, once again, homecoming, and with the lack of, I'd say, matchup options the Spurs have. Bol starts now. We'll see how he does in this game, but he's been pretty good lately, at least compared to what we thought he would do when we heard he was starting for the first time. But I'll go with the Suns in this one. I'm not a fan of this team. They still have Booker, though. They still have Durant. They still have a better overall team with Wemby being out. You could argue that Fox might have a monster game, and that's kind of the only way they win this game. But I do think Booker, we'll see if he plays or not. He's questionable. If Durant just dropped like 35, I think anybody would be surprised. I'll go with the Suns, even though I really can't stand this team.
Yeah, I think it would be the Suns here for me as well. I really don't know. I don't know. Like you mentioned, it should be a big game for Kevin Durant being back, in Austin.
I mean, do you want to back the Spurs without Wemby? Because if I was gonna back the Spurs, I would rather just take Fox props.
I think this is a props game. I think it comes down to I could see it coming down to the wire. I think this is the props game. Like you take the Durant overs and the hires in your underdog lineups, De'Aaron Fox hires overs, and then I think if Bassey does start, I like his rebounding prop in this game.
Bassey's out. Bassey's injured.
Oh yeah, Bassey's out. So
you got Mukashvili, my boy.
Yeah, there you go. So I'll be rooting for that double for you because I know you're going to put that ticket in for sure.
I have to see what the price is first, but I think that's my guy for this game. He made me so much money when the Spurs were tanking like 3 years ago. It was a great time.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go with the Suns here. I don't love it, but I think this is going to be the props game here for me. You said you like a higher scoring game here, Scott?
I think I kind of have to because I know the Suns aren't going to guard anybody, and Wemby, when he does not play, the Spurs defense is not really great anyway. But Wemby makes the defense, I'd say, tolerable. That's not going to be the case in this one. I'll go with the over.
All right. Last game of the night will be the LA Lakers. The shameful LA Lakers. They have to lose to the Charlotte Hornets at home and now travel up to the Northwest to Portland to take on the Trailblazers. Lakers laying 3 here on the road with a total of 227. Injury report for the Lakers. They do get that extra time to submit that injury report. See if Luka plays here tonight. See if LeBron plays here tonight. My assumption is that they do play after losing last night, but again, keep your eyes and ears open. For the Portland Trailblazers side of things, okay, so Ayton is going to be out. Jeremy Grant is questionable. Scoot Henderson is questionable. And Time Lord Robert Williams III is questionable. And Matisse Thybulle continues to be out. I don't know what kind of right ankle sprain he's dealing with because he hasn't played a lick this season, but
it's only a sprain?
That's what it's classified.
I thought he was missing a leg. I didn't realize that he had a sprain this whole time. Okay.
It was missing like 9 toes or something.
I thought it was like a Boyan thing with the Nets where he was just there, but he just came off of surgery and now he's having another surgery and the Nets waived him. So I thought he had like serious leg issues, a sprain. I didn't realize it was a sprain this whole time. All right, sure. That's fine.
Lakers laying 3 here, Sky. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I can't back the Lakers, -3. I understand you could argue that they'll be pissed off and they'll try to get a solid, I'd say take some frustrations out on Portland, but I don't know who's going to play. LeBron played well last night. Luka was horrible. We'll see if they end up playing or not. In this game, Reeves got ejected, so I think Reeves has a solid game if you end up getting Luka or LeBron missing. But Portland has been playing, once again, better recently. I know that they were on a hot streak, kind of fell off a bit late at the end there, but I still think they've been playing better basketball. They lost 3 straight, though. Played Minnesota, played Denver twice. Tough to beat Denver in Denver, so I can give them a pass there. But Portland, I think, can give this team problems matchup-wise. They did face off twice this season. The Lakers won both meetings at home by 9 and by 8. But Portland is 9 under. They're 2 over at home. They're a good home team in the Moda. So I'll go with the Trailblazers here. I actually don't mind how they match up with this Lakers team. You're looking at Kamara, who's a phenomenal defensive player. You have Avdia. You have a couple of wings that can give this team problems, at least can hold their own somewhat in this matchup. I think that Ayton, who is going to be missing this game, is going to be a big deal, but Klingon, I think, can have a solid game on the boards. He's also a good rim protector. I don't mind his blocks in this game. We saw Kessler, who's a similar build, have 6 blocks against the Lakers in his last game against them. Simons, though, has been good as well. I think Portland can actually match up against this team decently. So I'll go with the Trailblazers to get the job done. Give me Portland money line in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned I can't really trust these
Ayton being out's annoying, though, because he does kind of own the Lakers historically, which I was
Yeah.
kind of hoping for. But I think Clingan can do a decent job, him and Williams maybe, as a tandem in the front court. The Lakers have no centers. So if you're looking at him against the likes of Hayes and basically nobody else, I think Clingan could have a very solid game.
Yeah, I was looking at his rebounding prop. It's at 10.5 at even money. Currently over on DraftKings. I think he's a guy that's blowout proof as well. But I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. Yeah, I think until the Lakers figure out adjusting with Luka and LeBron, I think it's still very early right now for them. But as far as back in this team, I think hopefully they're able to figure it out by the playoffs. Luka's defense is always going to be something that's going to be hunted, like you talked about at the beginning of the episode. And I think that's something that the Lakers are going to have to figure out on the fly here. If they can, it's going to be tough for the Lakers to play a lot of defense when you have LeBron, Reeves, and Luka as your kind of backcourt defense there, because we saw, like I mentioned last night, Hornets made some adjustments in that second half, started finding a click, and they scored 62 points in that second half against the LA Lakers here. So I don't like that there's as many guys out here tonight for the Portland Trailblazers, especially at the, kind of the forward positions there.
In Aiden's defense, his driveway might be a bit icy, so he can't make it to the game. So
I think this could be, like you mentioned, a big Clingan game. Anthony Simon's games here as well. So yeah, it would be Blazers here for me before I can even touch the Lakers side of things. I mean, what a world that we are in, where the Lakers have a starting front court or their front court depth of Jackson Hayes and Alex Len. But yeah. All right. So that's the last game of the night on the Thursday card. 2 orders of business here, our lock and dog, and then we'll do our underdog fantasy entry for the show. Scott, you want to lead us off with your lock and dog?
Sure. So for the lock, do I want to go Memphis? Like, I'm thinking if I want to go with Memphis or if I want to go something a bit different. You know what? I think I'll actually trust my instincts on this one for the game tonight. I think do I want the Knicks or do I want the Suns? I can't stand the Suns, but damn, it's a good spot with Wemby being out. But Booker might sit too. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll go with my instincts here. I will go with the Suns to get the job done. I see -1.5 on ESPN bet. I'll take that. I think with Wemby being out once again, this team defensively should be a mess. Booker might play, but Durant, you could argue homecoming or not, it's a great matchup regardless. I do think that the Suns have enough offensive firepower to get past the Spurs without Wemby. So I'll go with the Suns in this one to get the job done. I remember the Spurs had this type of game, not in Austin, but they had this type of game against the Warriors a couple of years ago in this different stadium. They might have lost that game by like 30. Like, they've had games like this before and they've gotten blown out. I'll go with the Suns. The game matters, at least to Durant, I'd say, more than anybody else on the court. I think he can potentially carry this team to win by himself. I'm hoping Booker plays, obviously. We'll see if he does suit up or not. But I do think Nick Richards is a good matchup either way against Mamukashvili. So I'll go with the Suns -1.5 in this one. Yeah, that's the one Robert's talking about, the Alamo game, where I'm pretty sure the Warriors killed them by about 30. Give me the Suns, a -1.5 as my lock. For my dog, I really think the Knicks absolutely bury the Bulls in this game. So let me quickly see what I can get for an alt spread in this one. I know it's going to be a high line, but I really do think it's a good spot for the Knicks. Unless I want to go for... Do I want to go for a team total over parlayed with the Knicks? It's such a high team total, though. Let me just see what I can get for alt spreads here on the Knicks. Okay, you know what? I'll go with the Knicks -15.5 at +140 on DraftKings. I think after losing the first 2 games against the Bulls, I think they come out and smack this team. I think the Knicks win by 20, but I'll take -15.5 at +140 as my dog.
All right. For my lock, I think I'm going to lay it with the Cavs here, -13. It's just the fact that the Cavs are just going to go in there and outscore them. And I just don't think the Nets have enough firepower offensively to keep up with what the Cavs can do. And I've said this a lot of times that I think on the boards that if Mobley and Allen are going to clean it up and limit those second chance opportunities for any team, it's going to be a long night for those type of teams here. So all late here with the Cavs minus 13, getting off on the right foot to start the final stretch of the regular season here after the All-Star break as my lock for my dog. I wanted to take like a cat, like points alt ladder up, but if it turns in, but again, it is Tibbs where he will play, even if they're up by like 30 points, like 5 minutes left, you'll probably still see the starters out there.
OG is going to play 30 in his first game back, probably. So we'll see.
So I think we go with somebody mentioned the chat, the Donovan Clingan ladder on his rebounds. It's already at 10.5, but I don't think that Time Lord plays here tonight. And again, if some way, somehow it turns into a blowout for either team, I think Donovan Clingan still stays out there. So I would start his ladder up from...
I thought about a blocks ladder for Clingan, to be honest, as well.
Yeah,
but
I think he's a good DFS play if you are, with those DFS players. I do see a Zach Edey rebounding ladder, but
I'm concerned about the matchup, though, keeping pace
with
the
exactly
nature. That's kind of my problem there.
Let's see. Clingan. So it started at 12 plus. It's at plus 145. And if you want to work your way up there, 13 plus is at plus 220, 14 plus plus 340 for Donovan Clingan here tonight. So we'll start the ladder at 12 plus rebounds for Donovan Clingan of the Portland Trail Blazers at plus 145. All right. Let's do our Underdog Fantasy entry to wrap it up here, Scott. Again, get over there, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure that promo code NBA SGPN. Come join the fun with us. And hopefully we can put together a winning entry here for tonight. All right. Where do we want to start here? Do we want to go Cat?
Well, do you want to just start with Clingan rebounds? We'll just go from there.
Yeah, we'll go from there. Clingan, if they have them.
I'm assuming they should.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, they have the 10.5 rebounds. We'll go higher on that. What else?
Well, 4 jokes alone, but I also like the matchup. Do they have Trey 5.5 turnovers?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go with your boy.
They're definitely not going to have him. I'm not even going to ask about Mamukashvili, but Trey turnovers they might have.
Yeah, they have it higher at 1.08x.
Let's go. It's juiced.
All right.
All right. Or I should say, yeah, a little bit of extra value there. Give me the Trey higher 5.5 turnovers. He had 9 against them in like the week leading up to the All-Star break, so I'm fine with that. And then for the last one, I mean, do you want to go for the cliche Durant homecoming? Do you want to go for something a little bit, I'd say, sharper?
I don't hate the Durant angle. Do we go Fox? Like he's gonna have the ball.
I don't mind that. Yeah, the Suns are not a great defensive team anyway. Yeah, I don't mind that.
Do you want to go his points?
Sure.
All right. 24.5 is the number.
That does feel very low for Fox against Phoenix.
Yeah. All right. So our entry for tonight, Donovan Clingan, higher 10.5 rebounds. Trey Young, higher 5.5 turnovers. And we'll go De'Aaron Fox of the San Antonio Spurs, higher 24.5 points. That's a 6.8x entry. So every $10 that you put in, you'll get a return of $68.60. So again, get over there, underdogfantasy.com. Make sure you guys use that promo code NBA SGPN. And that, my friends, is going to wrap it up for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Final stretch of the regular season with majority of the teams playing here tonight as it continues into Friday and into the weekend. So, definitely looking forward to it. Scott, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here?
No, not really. Hopefully get a bunch of good games here. To be honest, I will be watching hockey instead tonight because you have Team USA against Team Canada.
Yep.
So I'll be watching that. No offense to the NBA, but either way, that is, I'd say, my main focus of the night. Maybe I'll watch Miracle again leading up to the game. Who knows? But either way, should be fun. Looking forward to the NBA slate and the hockey slate as well. So hopefully make some money.
Yep. We'll be back tomorrow. Like I mentioned, make sure you guys follow Scott over on Twitter at Reichel Radio. You can follow me there as well at SportsNerd824. More importantly, if you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button on your way out. And if you haven't already subscribed to the NBA Gambling Podcast YouTube channel, do us a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us as well. All right, we'll talk to you guys tomorrow for the Friday games. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.